The atmosphere inside the royal residence had shifted. King Charles III, a man who had spent his entire life in the shadow of duty and tradition, began to feel a chilling disconnect from the woman who had been his rock for decades. It wasn't a sudden explosion, but a slow, agonizing realization. Camilla, the queen consort, had started exhibiting patterns that didn't align with the rigid structure of palace life. Unexplained disappearances at the stroke of midnight, secret whispers behind closed doors, and a sudden, intense interest in the secluded eastern wing of the palace. Charles, guided by a king's intuition and a husband's aching heart, decided he could no longer remain blind. He began to observe her every move, not as a suspicious spouse, but as a monarch protecting his legacy. He noticed Camilla clutching a dark leather bag as if it held the weight of the world, her eyes darting with a fear he had never seen before. One afternoon, under the guise of a charity event, Camilla left the residence. This was the moment Charles had been waiting for. With a heavy heart and a spare key, he entered the forbidden room. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and rotting secrets. On the desk lay photographs of Camilla with her ex-husband, Andrew Parker Bowles, in positions that suggested their bond had never truly broken. But it was the thick, leather-bound diary that truly shattered his world. As he turned the pages, he found detailed notes about a systematic plan to undermine Princess Diana during her time in Scotland. The betrayal wasn't just recent, it was a decades-long conspiracy. Charles stood in the dim light, his knuckles white as he gripped the desk. The woman he loved had not only been unfaithful in spirit, but had played a part in the tragedy that still haunted his sons. "Camilla, what have you done?" he whispered into the cold air. The suspicion had turned into a terrifying reality, and the king knew that the path ahead would change the British monarchy forever. The diary revealed a darker truth than Charles could have ever imagined. It documented a secret romantic and financial partnership between Camilla and Andrew Parker Bowles that spanned over 30 years. The world believed their 1995 divorce was a clean break, but in reality, it was a strategic facade designed to deceive both the public and the royal family. Behind the scenes, they had orchestrated a psychological warfare campaign against Princess Diana. Andrew's role was particularly sinister. He had deliberately approached Diana during her private retreats in Scotland, whispering toxic lies into her ear. He convinced her that Charles would never love her, that she was merely a temporary replacement for the real woman in his life. These manipulations were designed to drive Diana into a spiral of despair and depression, making her marriage to Charles untenable. The diary also contained recent entries revealing Camilla's growing panic as Prince William's influence within the monarchy increased. She feared that a modern investigation into royal history would unearth her dark secrets. This fear drove her back into Andrew's arms, seeking his help to destroy remaining evidence, letters, photos, and incriminating records. Andrew, ever the opportunist, demanded a steep price for his silence. "Don't forget how much I helped you in 1995, he had sneered in a recorded conversation. Camilla was willing to pay anything to protect her crown. Charles, listening to the recordings he had secretly planted in her car, felt a wave of nausea. He realized that his entire life with Camilla had been built on a foundation of lies. The pain was not just about the infidelity, it was the realization that the tragedy of his first marriage, the suffering of his sons, and the turmoil of the monarchy were all part of a cold-blooded plan. Standing by his window, looking out over the dark palace grounds, Charles made a silent vow. No more cover-ups. The truth will be brought to light, no matter the cost. The day of reckoning arrived with a cold, clinical precision. King Charles summoned Camilla to a private, high-stakes meeting. The air in the room was suffocating. Without a word, Charles placed the recording device and the dossier on the table. As the voices of Camilla and Andrew plotting to burn the evidence filled the room, Camilla's face turned ashen. She tried to stammer an explanation, to call it a misunderstanding, but the infrared images of her midnight meetings left her with no defense. Charles's voice was like ice. "You have betrayed me, you have betrayed Diana, and you have betrayed the British people." He informed her that he would be seeking a divorce and that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, would be elevated to a more prominent role sooner than planned. The fall of Camilla was swift. Andrew Parker Bowles found himself stripped of all royal connections and financial support overnight, left isolated and disgraced. The announcement of the divorce sent shockwaves across the globe. While many were stunned, there was an underlying sense of relief that the truth had finally prevailed. For Charles, the decision was agonizing but necessary. He knew that the monarchy could only survive if it was built on transparency and integrity. As he stood alone in his study, he felt a strange sense of peace. The wounds in his heart remained, but he was no longer a victim of shadows. He was the king who had chosen the truth over a comfortable lie. The British monarchy had turned a new, painful, but ultimately honest page. The secret room was empty now, its dark files exposed, and the future of the crown was finally in the light.